My grandfather used to collect newspapers filled with strange and paranormal stories. He believed most of them were true. Let me tell you one. It happened in an old mining town, founded during the gold rush, that over time transformed into a quiet farming community. There is a town, long forgotten by time. Once, it thrived with gold miners and settlers, but as the veins ran dry, the miners left, and something else took their place. The forest that surrounds it is ancient, its trees twisted and gnarled, their roots consuming what lay beneath. No one ventures past the old markers anymore. Not after the disappearances, not after the whispers in the wind began calling people by name. But one man did not believe in ghosts nor in curses. His name was Dr. Elliot Graves, a seasoned investigator and archaeologist. He was convinced that the abandoned gold mine still held riches, that the old miners had simply lacked the tools to go deeper. Armed with knowledge, equipment, and skepticism, he set off on his journey into the cursed forest, unaware that something was already watching. Dr. Graves hiked through the dense forest, his boots sinking into the damp earth. The deeper he ventured, the quieter it became. The cheerful sounds of birdsong vanished. The air turned thick, oppressive, as though the trees themselves were leaning in, whispering secrets. He wiped sweat from his brow, checking his map. Just a few miles to the mine. He hadn't noticed how the path narrowed, how the trees twisted into unnatural shapes. And then, his boots struck something hard. He looked down. A rock, or so he thought, jutted from the earth. But its surface was too smooth, too rounded. He kicked away the loose dirt. It was a headstone, weathered and cracked. He had been stepping on graves. A cold shiver ran down his spine, but he pressed on. Then he saw it, the hanged man's tree. Its thick blackened branches reached toward the sky, its bark scarred by decades of rope burns. The air beneath it felt heavier, wrong. But what Dr. Graves failed to see was the shadowy figure perched high above, a figure with hollow, rotting eyes, watching, waiting. Dr. Graves turned sharply. Nothing, but the wind carried a whisper. Not yet. He hurried past the tree, heart pounding. As night fell, he set up camp near the path to the mine. The fire flickered weakly against the pressing darkness. The air was colder than it should have been. Then, something was walking around his tent. He grabbed his flashlight, sweeping the trees. Nothing. Just shadows. But one of them moved. Dr. Graves tensed. His breathing turned shallow. A creeping dread crawled into his chest. Then, the zipper of his tent began to slide down on its own. He yanked it closed, heart pounding. The laughter returned closer this time. He gripped his gun, whispering a curse. Then a voice slithered into his ear, just outside the thin fabric of the tent. "You will be mine soon." Darkness took him. Morning came. Dr. Graves awoke on cold earth, his tent slashed open, his supplies shredded beyond use. His gun lay just out of reach, like someone had moved it deliberately. The trees stood eerily silent. The world felt wrong. But the mine was close now. He had to press forward. Inside, the tunnels stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of darkness. The deeper he went, the more the whispers returned. Then, gold. Everywhere. His breath hitched. The legends were false. The mine was rich, untouched. A cold wind snuffed his torch, then a laugh. That same laugh. Dr. Graves turned sharply. A smoky figure loomed behind him. The whisper caressed his ear. "Because all the gold is mine." Darkness. The townsfolk gathered in the morning light. Another stranger lost to the forest's curse. They found him hanging from the hanged man's tree, his face contorted in unspeakable terror. They knew what had to be done. They burned his body before he could return, before he could become another watcher in the woods. The town still stands, silent and weary. The forest remains untouched, its trees watching, waiting. And on some nights, if you stand beneath the hanged man's tree, you might hear a whisper just behind your ear. Not yet.